What's going on, everybody? How we doing? This is Drew Dekes, aka Andrew, aka Drew Dekes, here with my usual partner in crime on a different show, Habs Tonight, which we actually are going to be doing our own reaction show after the deadline. So around 3:45, you guys can tune in live to Habs Tonight, where Shayne, myself, and Anik Lemire will be joining us for a live reaction show after the trade deadline is over. And Shayner, I love the background because we're kind of promoting our show later on. But dude, this week's been just absolutely bonkers. So it kind of was trending everywhere. But basically, trade deadline day became trade deadline week. So like this was a blast, man. Like I gotta say, and I should mention also that yes, Kyle Bukauskas will be joining us in just under 10 minutes or so. So he'll be with us very shortly. But dude, what a crazy week. Like, wasn't this better than just one day of trades? Like, I know seems like an obvious question, but it kind of was, yeah?
It was, because it's like getting Christmas for a week, right? Every day you get a new present. You don't know what's happening. Some guys that weren't supposed to be traded were traded. Some guys we knew were going to be traded were traded already. All the big names are off the board, which sucks for all the TSN, Sportsnet, RDS panelists who have to stay on and talk about anything for 8 hours. But that's why we're doing a short show, right? Last year we did like a 3-hour live show reacting to trades, and there were a lot. But today I'm not expecting much. I think the only trades that have happened so far are like AHL trades. Brendan Lemieux got traded. That's about it for today. Nothing crazy.
Like, it's been the slowest day I've ever seen. And we know why, because obviously
It's all done.
everything's pretty much happened, it seems, except for we're hoping to get a trade to break while we're live, maybe with Kyle, because last year, we're going to mention this when Kyle jumps on too, but last year on the Habs Tonight live stream, Kyle was with us for a while talking about trades, different players and different teams. And then like less than 5 minutes after Kyle jumped off the air with us, Arturi Lehkonen was traded to Colorado. Like, that was wild, man.
Yeah, that was funny. I mean, and Nick breaking out the wine bottle. I don't think she'll have to do that again today, but man, it was a great trade deadline for Habs fans last year, right? This year, haven't gotten much to get really, like, except for obviously Dadonov for Gurianov, which we'll talk about for sure. But
and an AHL deal for Nate Schnarr just got traded to the LA Kings for Frederick Allard. So we'll talk about that too. But yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry.
No, I mean, he's going straight to Laval. It's been confirmed already. For those who don't know him, including myself, I just did some research right before we jumped on. But he was a point per game defenseman in the Q, and then hasn't really translated to the pro level. He's only 25 years old, so we'll see. It's it's an AHL deal, really. Nothing to really gawk about here, but who knows? It's a move.
Yeah, it's a move. I mean, I did see him as well, and it kind of feels like a Jonathan Kovacevic move, maybe, but except Covey has been able to. Sorry for calling him Covey for those who don't like that. I know it's Alex Kovalev is Covey in our hearts, but yeah, Frederick Allard he's played one NHL game so far in his career, and that was actually with the Nashville Predators. So back in 2021 or so, but. Regardless, yeah, like the Habs, we're still kind of waiting for Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton to drop something for us today. But, and like I mentioned on the ticker at the bottom, Kyle Bukauskas will be joining us very shortly from Ottawa, where the Ottawa Senators, buddy, like, look out. Like, I can't wait to talk to Kyle about this Chychrun deal and just the fact that, like, after weeks and weeks, the first big holdout was Jacob Chychrun, and like the Senators get him on the cheap. Like, how does that even happen? Like, my head's still spinning on this one, buddy.
We've been waiting for this trade. It feels like for 2 years now, and there were all kind of speculation circling around, like, what is Arizona looking for? A first, an A-level prospect, a roster player, and then another draft pick. Like, their ask was astronomical. Like, it was way too much, right? And don't get me wrong, Jacob Chychrun is a fine defenseman. He's really, really good, but he's not worth all that they were asking for, right? So, which brings us to why he was traded yesterday for a first and 2 seconds. Anti-climactic as it can get. I mean, I kind of broke down what I thought were the fleeces, the win-wins, the not so sure. That one is right up there on my fleeces. Ottawa just took away, just robbed Arizona. Like it's not even funny. A first and 2 seconds for Chychrun. Now, it's not terrible. It's not a terrible return, right? Arizona wants those draft picks, but I expected at least one solid prospect to go. But
yeah.
Ottawa didn't even give up a prospect, which is amazing. Like, shout out Pierre Dorion. Listen, I'm not a fan of Ottawa, quite the opposite. Don't really like them, but I have to respect this move. This is amazing. Like, you pair this guy with Thomas Chabot, and they got rid of Nikita Zaitsev, who was a plug. So they're looking really, really good, and they've been on a tear recently. They just beat the Rangers. Granted, it was Halak and net, but again, they've been rolling. So maybe they make the playoffs. I don't know. It's a crazy race in the East for those 2 wildcard spots.
It really is, man. Like, and now like you got Florida on the outside of that picture, which is crazy to me, but it's good news for us as Habs fans because the worse they do, the better the pick that we got from them becomes, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, right now, I think we're at 9.5% chance of getting first overall with their pick combined with ours. It's like they're at 3.5 or they're at 3. We're at 6.5%, something like that. I check Tankathon NHL like every day to put a smile on my face because, this season's been brutal. We need something to look forward to. But yeah, if they can keep losing and who knows, right? There's still time on the board here. There's still like at least an hour to make a trade, an hour and 15 minutes. That pick could be moved. Who knows? Like if Kent has a target in mind, that first round pick could be moved, or we could move it at the draft for say Pierre-Luc Dubois. Possibilities here, but I like the fact that we have 2 first round picks, especially in this draft, which is loaded. I mean, top 20 is insane, but yeah, top 6 is special, really.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, I'm the draft is like my hope. Like that's all I'm thinking about sometimes. Okay, so we do actually have a trade involving the Canadians right now, being reported by Chris Johnston. The Habs, it's not a big deal for us, but the Habs are playing third-party broker in the Nick Bonino trade between San Jose and Pittsburgh. So the Habs get a 5th-round pick for the trouble, is how Chris Johnston put it.
Bonino.
Yeah. So yeah, let me see if there's any more details on that. This is only as of 5 minutes ago. So third-party broker in the Nick Bonino trade between San Jose and Pittsburgh to get a 5th for the trouble. So that's pretty much. Now, why do you think this particular move was made? This is in order to free up cap space somehow for the Habs here, or this is what's the idea here?
It's a good question. I mean, I didn't think we were going to be playing Arizona Coyotes today because we don't have as much cap space as say the Yotes do, or Minnesota's been doing it quite often as well recently. But I don't mind it. Take on a bit of cap for a 5th rounder. Might as well.
It's something.
Exactly, it gets something. Like
yeah, they're teasing us a little bit. All right, we got our buddy Kyle here in studio. So let's without further ado, let's bring him on. My buddy, my pal, Kyle Bukauskas. Thanks for jumping on, brother. How you doing, man?
Hello, fellas. Happy trade deadline.
Indeed.
Cheers. Hope everyone's doing good.
Yes. There you go.
Oh yeah, doing great.
There it is.
Good. Yeah,
my supply there.
Dan Slater, our camera operator here in Ottawa, came with the carbonated waters, which is a favorite of mine. So he knows the way to my heart. It's been good. It's been a good day.
He knows the way to your heart. Okay, I love it, dude. Thanks so much for coming on, man. It's always good to have our annual catch-ups that we do. We do at least 1 or 2 of these a year, right? So
yes.
So you're in Ottawa today.
I am. Yep.
So what's other than Jacob Chychrun lately? What is the buzz in Ottawa right now? Are we just like, what's your sense of things over there at the moment?
Well, teams in a playoff race, like legitimately now, which came out of nowhere. You think about on January 24th, they were 13 points out, and they woke up this morning and they're 4 points out. And they've got 3 games in hand on the Islanders that have the last wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. I mean, I didn't see this coming. I don't think a lot of people did. It seemed like it was another one of those years where the injuries, another brutal November, cost them a chance to be in the race. But now they're here, and they've added. They brought in Jacob Chychrun, who's not just try to help get them over the hump and into the playoffs this year. You've got a guy that's under control for the next 2 seasons. You got 2 more seasons beyond this one before you have to have a conversation of, is he part of things going even beyond that? So I think regardless if they come up short ultimately, this is a tremendous stretch here for Ottawa after, guys, it's been so long, year after year, where as we arrived at the trade deadline, it felt like the Senators' season had already been over for 2 months. And it was just a matter of, okay, which of the guys on expiring deals would they be able to flip for a mid-round pick? It just seemed like it was that every year. And certainly the players felt it. Like Brady Tkachuk said earlier this week, like, this is a unique situation for me in the NHL. I haven't gone through it before. They've had 3, I thought, the 3 most impressive victories I've seen all season from them came this week, 2 against Detroit, and then to go into Madison Square Garden last night, the debut of Patrick Kane and all the hoopla around that, and to go into the third period down a goal and to find a way to win. We'll see how long they can keep it up for, but I just think it's great for a fan base that's dealt with a lot of BS, quite frankly, over the last 5-6 years, and now they finally get to celebrate not just what's to come in the future, but the here and now at this time of year.
Yeah, that's it. And Kyle, the Senators lost Josh Norris early on in the season, so their center depth is a bit depleted. Do we think they make another move for a center before 3:00?
That's what I wondered about. I was saying just on the Sportsnet show earlier, like DJ before the Tuesday game against Detroit was asked about Dylan Gambrell and then just the role he's played at the center ice position, given the fact that Norris has been out and everyone needing to slide up. And DJ just said, well, I've only got 4 centers. And I don't think that was a shot at Gambrell by any stretch, but he's gone like, I've got no other choice but to play the 4 that I have. So I wondered if they were going to look at, bringing in someone there. Like Nick Bukestad was a guy I thought about before he ultimately got dealt to Edmonton. I don't know. We spoke with Pierre Dorion earlier this morning. He seemed more interested in talking about, Blue Jays spring training than potentially doing anything else between now and 3:00 here. So I just wonder if, whatever else is out there on the market either doesn't seem to be a fit from Ottawa's perspective, or the price is too high. With all the adding that they've done, which has been great, at the same time, they also don't have any draft picks for the first 3 rounds coming up this summer in Nashville. So you have to take that into consideration as well. And then, for the talks not too long ago about would Cam Talbot be on the move, Austin Watson would be a guy potentially in play. And I think certainly in Watson's case, he felt like there was a chance that he could get moved. With the way they've been going of late, I think you need both guys if you're going to take a run at this, because as you mentioned, the depth has been tested here already. They don't have much beyond those 2. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear anything else before the deadline hits in Ottawa.
This guy's actually reading my mind. You guys think that Ottawa might call about Christian Dvorak? Because I feel like that might be a good fit for Ottawa, but what kind of price would Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon want, right? Because, this draft with the Bedard sweepstakes, like, the Canadians really wanted another first rounder. At least that's the general consensus from a Sean Monahan or a Joel Edmondson trade, or, name your player. But I think Sean Monahan was going to be your guy to get the Habs another first rounder. Kyle, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, again, it might just come down to the price, because he's, 2 more years after this one. I think 4.5 Dvorak is. And Monahan just isn't healthy. So they say, like, Ottawa doesn't have their first round pick this year. There's conditions on the one next year. I'm just not sure if those are the waters they want to wade into, especially when you consider, you hope that Josh Norris is healthy again come the fall for training camp, and you don't have to have this conversation about, filling his void beyond the end of this season. So that's why I wonder, or just would be hesitant in terms of Ottawa's interest there. I'm sure they've checked, but again, I don't get the sense yet. And of course, as soon as I say that, something will happen. But I don't get the sense
as we all look at our phones.
I don't get the sense yet that something like that would be in the offing for the Sens.
So if we look at what there's a trade bait list here that I'm looking at, and we have James Van Riemsdyk at the top of the list, which I don't think a lot of people would have imagined him being at the top of the list on this particular day, Kyle. But second to him, Brock Besser, and then actually at number 3 is Joel Edmondson. Behind him, Connor Garland, Dmitry Kulikov, John Klingberg, who teams have been checking in on. But out of Van Riemsdyk, Besser, Edmondson, just the top 3, I guess we could say. Who do you see as the most likely candidate? Or what's your opinion on either of these guys from a standpoint of health for Joel Edmondson, et cetera?
Right. Like, I thought it was not insignificant that he played last night, right? And played over 16 minutes. Is that enough for a team to go, okay, we're comfortable giving up the price that Kent Hughes wants for him? I guess we'll see here in the next hour plus. Van Riemsdyk, I can see moving, just because if you can, for a team that can find if Philadelphia will take 50%, if there's a double retention in there to make it all work. He's a guy on an expiring deal, so you're not worried about beyond this year. And, certainly he's not at the same caliber as he was, 4 or 5 years ago, but I still think like his work around the front of the net, his touch on top of the crease is still so effective and valuable, especially when you get into the playoffs and, those tight areas get harder and harder to maneuver through. So he if I was to guess which of the 3, if there's only one that's going to be moved before 3:00, he would be my pick.
Van Riemsdyk. Yeah, Besser seems like a harder one. Like that's going to cost you.
It feels like the summer or the draft or something. Yeah.
It
hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that seems like there's time. There's time for that one.
Yeah.
But in terms of Edmondson, I mean, he got pretty emotional when Eric Engels, your partner in crime, asked him last night in LA about his time with the Canadiens and what it's meant to him, and that he does sound like he genuinely wants to stay with the Montreal Canadiens and try to help this rebuild along. But I mean, I imagine that if he is as healthy as he sounds like he was, that the Habs are going to try to get something for him, maybe. But how much do you think that the Sean Monahan situation really did hurt them in terms of their options here? Because there really isn't very many.
I think it's significantly altered what their hopes were, right? Because he got off to a good start this year. He seemed like he was a great fit in Montreal. He was healthy. And so the fact that they got a first-round pick to take his contract, I think there was legitimate hope from Montreal's side that they could potentially get another first-round pick in dealing him here at the deadline. So when that goes away, I mean, that's a big windfall that was potentially there for you that all of a sudden isn't. And so maybe that's where the push to potentially move on from someone like Edmondson, even though he's so well liked in the room. Clearly, he loves being a Montreal Canadian, and you think about the connection between him and his late father, and the love for the Habs as well. It's not an easy one. It goes beyond just the business of transactions that happen. Transactions that happen between players and teams, but the fact that you've kind of lost the opportunity that you thought might have been there with Sean Monahan. I think there's has to be the thought of, well, can we at least get something here? I love the gamble of bringing in Gurianov for Dadonov. But is there more there in terms of draft capital that Ken Hughes would like to potentially acquire, and maybe Joel Edmondson is likely the best option to obtain that.
Yeah, guys, I see a comment here by Dave, which is interesting because Drouin, like his name hasn't been mentioned quite a lot, but you look at his deal, right? He's expiring UFA, and he hasn't played terrible. He hasn't scored. Linus Ullmark has more goals than him, right? We said the jokes already, but he's still played fairly well. Like he's an orchard. The guy can dish it out. So should a team, want to take a flyer on him? Do we think he gets moved?
I can see that in the summer, honestly, where now you're not dealing with his price tag. And again, I know we're in the era now of double retention, and it's funny, like last few weeks leading up to the deadline, before all the craziness happened, it's like, wow, how are teams going to be able to make moves, right? We're in the flat cap era. There's no wiggle room. And now felt like the busiest 10, 14 days we've ever seen around the trade deadline. So I know there's a lot of creativity to be had in terms of, the cap structure and making numbers fit to a team's liking. But I just wonder if there's been enough there in his play that would make a team want to be interested. And as you say, part of it, I think, is beyond his control. He's been hurt. He hasn't been in the lineup every game. It's been tough, the fact that he's got, a bagel next to the goal column. But I'm with you. Like, he's certainly looked engaged. Like, I've done a number of Montreal games here over the last few months, and you do notice him. You do notice his playmaking still. I just hope he's still able to find joy in coming to the rink every day, and that there's still, a path for a solid, a lengthy career yet after this season comes to a conclusion for him. Martin St. Louis, I remember him saying, like, it was about, I don't know, just before Christmas time, forgotten, like, at that time, Armia was still really going through it too. He hadn't scored yet this year. And his word of advice to those players were, like, you don't want to, 10 years after your career's done, you don't want to be looking back at it and be like, man, like, I wish I enjoyed myself a lot more. Like, there's enough pressure that comes with being an NHL player as is. I just hope for someone like Drouin, there's still joy to be had in playing this sport, because I know it hasn't been easy at times. And certainly as a French Canadian coming home to play for the Canadians, and the expectations that came right away when he was acquired from Tampa. I just hope he's doing well. I would be surprised if he's on the move here today, but maybe that allows for just a fresh start this summer, and allow him to find a new situation that there isn't the same type of pressure or expectation, and maybe that ends up bringing the best out of him.
Yeah. Before we keep going, there's a breaking trade, if you want to call it that. I mean, this is a three-way trade with Pittsburgh, the Habs, and the Sharks. So Pittsburgh gets Nick Bonino. The Habs retain 50% of Nick Bonino and get defenseman Tony Sund. Don't know who he is. And the Sharks receive Arvid Henriksen, a 7th rounder, and a 5th rounder. So little tidbit of information.
That's why we have Hockey DB open all the time.
Yeah.
So
and Kent and Jeff are awake. Okay, they're moving, but
they have a pulse, guys. They've got a pulse. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Is this the
Tony Sund is a left-hand shot defenseman out of Finland, 27 years old. Has not played any NHL games, but 6'3", 183 pounds. He's a bigger dude, left shot defenseman. So,
and the Rocket are in a playoff hunt, aren't they?
The Laval Rocket, Shayne, you're pretty dialed with the Rocket. Yeah. Where are they at? Yeah,
it was a downright terrible start to the season for them, but it's been better lately. Primo was kind of gotten into a groove. Like, he was not doing well in the beginning, but with a few new guys. I mean, most of the good players from Laval are with the Habs right now, so that's not helping.
Right.
But if the Habs get some players back, those guys will be sent down. It'll help, but it's still going fairly well. Yeah. Adam Engstrom. Okay. That's pretty good.
Yep.
Sweet.
I mean, this comment here from Hab Nation's like, the rebuild is slow going. I mean, yes, but that's how you do it, right? Yeah. To me, I don't know, Kyle, you've seen this rebuild with the Senators. I mean, firsthand.
It's been going a lot longer. A lot longer than what Montreal's currently experienced. Like, I mean, the thing is, like, there's no, I don't know. Like, I don't know if there's any one scenario you can point to and go, like, that's the way you have to do it. Like, every situation is different, right? Like, you think the path is to load up on as many first round picks as you can, and then everyone points to Edmonton and go, well, how long did it take them? And they got all the first round picks. They got all the first overall picks, but it doesn't always guarantee anything. So especially for Ottawa here, where it's been a slow burn. And I think there were times where, there was some frustration starting to set in, where you're going, okay, fans are thinking, we've been patient and we're still not seeing any results. But now they're starting to see the other side of it, right? And so credit to management for being stubborn in their vision, and credit to being patient on just the whole Chychrun deal, right? Like the irony of all that, where it seemed like that wasn't going to be possible here because of what the ask was on the Arizona side of things, in grabbing whether it was a Ridley Gregg or a Mads Sogard or a Tyler Klevin. And the Sens said, those players are important to us, and we're not willing to part with them. And it got to the point where the asking price went down, and they were willing to take the entire contract and not ask Arizona to eat any money. And now they've got him for what was almost the same deal that Vancouver paid to get Philip Hronek, and you've got a defenseman that hasn't even turned 25 yet. And that's no disrespect to Philip Hronek. I feel he's a very effective defenseman as well, but a player of Chychrun's caliber who, again, it feels like he's been around for a long time, but he hasn't even hit 25, can continue to grow with this team now. The patience there, it is a virtue at times, as frustrating as it can be in the moment for fans. But because when you look, I don't know what's going to happen here the next month and a half for Ottawa, but at least when you look at how this team has grown and who's under contract for an extended period, like you're looking at, okay, now they've got a number of years to try to go at this now, and they will continue to add pieces here and there along the way, as opposed to you waited all this time and, oh geez, Chychrun's only here for a little bit, so you better make good, and we could be right back to where we were. They've built themselves up a good chunk of runway here, and I think that's maybe the biggest key if you're going to go through the pain that a team like Ottawa has gone through. So I think from the Montreal side, I mean, you've got an opportunity, another high pick coming this summer in Nashville. You'd like to think that a guy like Slafkovsky will be a little more mature, a little more understanding of what to expect once he gets healthy again. And we'll see what else comes in here along the way. Caulfield healthy again. They've been thrilling at times this year. The fact that, this is really just the start, and they've already shown plenty of shades of what they could be down the road. I think that's a sign that, maybe they're not even waiting as long as fans here in Ottawa have to actually taste a playoff race.
That's it. Nobody can rebuild like the Rangers did. Like that was a fluke. Let's be honest, right? You get Panarin, now you get Tarasenko and Kane. Like, I remember like it was yesterday they announced on the billboards, sorry guys, we're going to rebuild, and then
the big letter to the fans.
Playoffs, like, come on.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Well, it helped.
Part of it, right?
It helped getting they were a play-in team in the bubble, and they ended up with the first overall pick. Right. that helps. That helps you too. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and again, that's the advantage of being in a market like New York, where players like Panarin and Kane just want to go and be a part of. It's a little harder when you're in a market like Ottawa to attract players of that caliber. But the one thing that will always, I think, make most competitive players anyway, sit and think about is if you're a winning organization. And so for the longest time since 2017, Ottawa hasn't had that. And now they've got some signs that they're ready to step it up and be a little more serious this time of year.
I think we have to talk about the other team in Ontario who just went just gangbusters. And I'm talking about another guy named Kyle.
Yes.
So I know that everyone, look at my background. We know where we stand in terms of fan bases, but I got to say, after following all of my Leaf fan friends, including who helped inspire this channel, Mr. Steve Dangle, and just everybody in Leafs Nation now, at this point, Kyle, if all these moves don't work now, something's got to be really wrong, right? Like, what do you make of what Dubas did? Because you can't not be entertained as a hockey fan, and especially as a Leaf fan, the last couple of weeks here, man.
Yeah, it's been awesome what he's managed to bring in. And though, a couple of roster players in Sandin and Engvall ultimately go out the door elsewhere, just to make it all work. You look at who the real heavy hitters are on the roster. They haven't been touched. I don't think, anyone that's been a real reliable guy for all of this season is now all of a sudden being bumped down by someone who's come in, and will that throw off the dressing room chemistry? I think it'll still take a bit of time just to get everyone acclimated because of the amount of new faces that are now part of it. Selfishly, I love the fact that Luke Schenn is back in the mix just because he's just a really, really nice guy to deal with.
Right on.
And I believe he can help them too. Beyond that, I think he's still got a lot of good playing days ahead of him. So I think with all that considered, you're right. If they come up short, then what do you do? I believe, though, at least if you're in Kyle Dubas's position where you don't have a contract beyond this year, I think you're at least going, okay, well, if you want to get rid of me, you get rid of me, but you can't look at what I did here the last few months and didn't give this team every opportunity to try to win. Right? Like, the problem is it's a gauntlet in the Atlantic Division, let alone the Eastern Conference, to get through. The playoff format, the way it's constructed, doesn't do them any favors in terms of who they have to play right off the hop. But I think this is, again, we'll see. The goaltending still is like, let's see what happens here. But I think this is, in my time, being around them, this is, far and away the best team that they've had, like the deepest team. I liked a lot about how they were constructed last year. They just came up 1 goal short against Tampa in Game 7. But I think they're heavier in their bottom 6. Whether it's between Luke Schenn and Jake McCabe, I think they can handle things in front of their own net better from a blue line perspective than in years past. And so now, can Austin Matthews be better than Nikita Kucherov? Can Mitch Marner be better than Braden Point, right? And you go down the list from there. Can Toronto's best players take over a series? That'll be a real fascinating thing to watch here this spring.
Because they are set to match up against Tampa again, right? Like,
the
way the season's progressing. So, I mean, Tampa's also kind of made some moves, right? Michael Esamont, I thought, was an underrated trade, but Tanner Jeannot was a head scratcher. When I saw that return, oh my God. I mean, a first, a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth, and Cal Foote. Like, I get that Jeannot, is a second-year player, right? He was a rookie last year. Great rookie season, big hitter, physical guy, but he had a shit year, let's be honest. Like, he was not doing well this year. How do they pay that much? Like, do they really trust him to that extent? Because that is a ton of picks.
Right. I just think you look at their track record. You look at Julien Brisebois' track records. Like, everyone was losing their minds when they gave up separate first-round picks for Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman, and then they win a cup that year. And then they give up another first-round pick to bring in David Savard the next year. They win a cup again. And they load up again, giving up a bunch of draft capital to bring in Brandon Hagel last year. And they go and are within 2 wins of a third straight Stanley Cup. So clearly, I think, you're right. It's a big package. It was clearly far more than anyone else was willing to pay for the player. And that's why Nashville did the deal with them. But as Brisebois kind of outlined in his media availability after the fact, like, he's going, we're here to win right now. Where our core players is at, like, we're here to win today. The draft picks, they're not helping us today. So there will come a time for that organization where, the things shift a little bit, and now draft picks will become more of an asset for them. Will take on greater importance, but that's not right now. And I thought Derek Lalonde here, the coach of the Red Wings, who was an assistant with Tampa there, their 2 cup wins in back-to-back years. He had a great line earlier this week when he was asked about the trade the morning after it happened. And he said, it was funny, like, every summer that I worked for Julien Brisebois, I would get shipments of trophies, replica trophies sent to my house from the National Hockey League. It was funny how that happened. So he said he learned never to question what Julien Brisebois was doing. So I thought that was a really great way to put it. So it's a massive price, to your point. I'm not arguing with you in the least there, but for where the Lightning are at right now, they believe that was the player they need to help them try to win again.
That's it. Can't doubt them. Cannot. That's it. But one team, like, we talked about the Leafs, how they have a lot of pressure coming into the playoffs, but I think another team that does is the Oilers. You're in McDavid and Draisaitl's prime here, arguably the 2 best players in the league, in the world, and you can't get past the conference final. And in a weak West, right? Like, aside from the Avalanche, who else can really compete in the West? So the Oilers maybe, again, depending on what kind of moves they make here in the next 50 minutes. But I don't know. Like, the Oilers seem to have a good path here. They could actually make some damage, and they went out and got Matthias Ekholm, which I thought was fantastic. Like, that's exactly what they need. But I thought they gave up a little bit too much. Like, Reed Schaefer, I'm pretty high on Reed Schaefer. He was on Team Canada Juniors, played well, good first-round prospect, and then a first on top of that, a fourth. And then Tyson Barrie, I understand, right? You can put Bouchard or Ekholm on the power play. That doesn't matter. But I was a bit surprised they gave up that much. But again, I understand, right? Ekholm is a good guy.
I think, yes, again, and exactly what they needed. Craig Simpson, who I work with, like, he lives in Edmonton, of course, won 2 cups with the Oilers back in the day. And he is always big on, like the Oilers defensively, like they don't have good sticks. He's always big on good sticks, like good positioning, good stick checking, good in front of the net. Where's your stick in relation to where your opponent is? And he's always on Edmonton. They're not there yet. And Ekholm is a guy that you don't have to worry about in that regard, right? So I with you believe that was just the type of player that they needed. And again, like I think Nashville, like they were with Jeannot, they knew that Ekholm would be a guy in high demand, especially when you get into playoff time. And so the price went up, and Edmonton was willing to pay for it. And again, I think it's because, to your earlier point, you're in the glory years of McDavid and Draisaitl, so it doesn't really feel like the time to be going, well, we've got this prospect that we really like that could be a player for us in 3 to 4 years. It might be too late by then. You're trying to win right now, and they got a taste of it last year getting to the conference final, and then ran into a Colorado team that was not going to lose to anybody, it seemed. And so here's a chance to take another run at it. McDavid's doing something I haven't seen in my lifetime. A lot of people haven't seen in their lifetimes, especially in this era of how the game is played. Draisaitl's still doing his thing. Nugent Hopkins is having a career year. I think
he can fight too. He can
as
fight.
we learned that, yeah.
Oh my God, Justin Hall.
I know he's a very nice guy. I didn't see that coming from him at all. But man, I popped Justin Hall with a couple. Wow. Holy jumping! So I think they're in that mode of we've got to do everything in our power to support the team we have to win now. And don't think that, that comment that from Connor McDavid a few days ago about, I see all the other teams around us making moves and I don't necessarily like it. Like, don't think that wasn't lost on the Oilers management as well. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that was kind of a subtle message of, all right, other teams are loading up, we should be doing the same. And they did.
Yeah.
This just came in from Jeff Merrick. This is Nick is our other co-host. I don't know if you saw her on our show last year, but she's been, we called her our Brendan Gallagher on our Habs Tonight show.
Oh, nice.
She's always injured. She's always injured.
The poor girl is, oh my God. I didn't even thought about that. I feel bad for her. Oh my gosh. But anyway, this, I don't even know if I told Kyle which stream he was coming on today, but this is my channel today. But we're making an announcement about the future Habs Tonight later today. But regardless, that's coming on around 3:45. But Jeff Merrick apparently had said that the Oilers are done unless something big comes out of the blue. So that's coming from him apparently here.
Yeah, well, because what time is it there? In
2:15 Eastern time.
Yeah, 2:15 Eastern. So that's 12:15 Mountain. I think Ken Holland did his media like 11:30 local. Like that's 90 minutes before the deadline. Like you never see a Canadian GM do his media before the deadline's done. So I think that goes to whether, I didn't check to see whether that actually happened or not, but that does go to show you that if that's what the plan was, seemed like Edmonton was about done.
What's your opinion on this week? Or actually, I should say the last couple weeks, Kyle, because would you rather have, because we've all kind of sensed it and kind of shared it on social media that this has been trade deadline week. So yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot more than just this one day of rush. Like, what's your opinion and what's the Sportsnet? What's the whole feeling on it from everybody?
I don't know. Me personally, I think it's awesome. Like it's been day after day of just complete chaos across the NHL, and just that feeling of okay, what's going to come next? What are we missing? And it's the irony in that the biggest block of time dedicated for all these transactions comes on the day that's no doubt the quietest, I think, of all the ones leading up to today. But again, I think it just speaks to teams wanting to get their business done early so they can get the players they want before they go elsewhere. And also just taking advantage of the quicker you get a guy in, acclimated, the more time he spends around the team, the more comfortable you are heading into the postseason. So I think it's been great for the fans. Like, I don't know, like the fact that every day, like it kind of made me feel like, the early rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs where it's like double headers every night. It's just, it's nonstop. Everything matters. It's kind of had that feeling here of all week where it's like every night, okay, how this trade happened, now this one, and then what's going to come next, as opposed to, just kind of the slow dribbling. It's just been an all out, the faucet's opened and, trades have been coming. I think, the more intrigue around that, the better.
I think it was good for the league. Like, I just think that if that was done on purpose, it worked, because it's just like people who make content like ourselves or I mean, everybody who has all these reactions to the trades, I can't help but think this is cookies for them. By the way, what is your timeline? Just so I know, because I don't want to, interfere.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just checking things here.
Okay.
No, I'm okay for time. We got to tape something here in a little bit before Pierre does his media, but right now we're okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
just making sure, but and my train of thought appears to have been lost because now I'm looking at Twitter and getting distracted. But no, just the trade deadline, the trade deadline week, and I just feel like the way it was done this year, we haven't seen it before. It's been unconventional, but I like the idea of teams not waiting till last minute. It's almost like we live in a last minute culture in general sometimes, right? And I think that doing it this way, sporadic, like spread out over a couple of weeks, was much more entertaining from a fan perspective than just waiting for one day and then being disappointed because you only got one day and there weren't enough deals, right? So I think this was much, much better.
Right, and I'm sure a lot of the GMs aren't thinking, okay, how can we make this the most entertaining for fans? Like they're just trying to get business done to improve their teams one way or another, whether it's now or in the future. So the fact that it's just played out this way, where they're trying to be aggressive and get things done, before whatever deals on the table goes away. It's just led to far more entertaining. I don't think we've entered, the NBA level of like free agency and trade deadline and all the hoopla that goes around there. But this has been one of the more entertaining lead ups in my time as a hockey fan.
Mm-hmm. One thing I find kind of takes away from the entertainment value is that we know where the guys are going for the most part. We knew Timo Meier was going to the Devils. We knew Patrick Kane was going to the Rangers. Like, all respect to the insiders, but like they're way too inside now. Like they know like everything ahead of time. There's no surprises anymore, which I would have liked to find out, oh my God, Patrick King's a Ranger, like out of nowhere. That would have been cool, but we knew a week ahead where he was going. I don't know. I wish that was a part of it, but aside from that, there was some good surprises. Like I didn't expect O'Reilly to go to the Leafs. I didn't expect Bo Horvat to go to the Islanders. So still some fairly good surprises here and there. Yeah,
and I think for, again, my experience living in Ottawa and being around the Sens fan base, the rumors of Jacob Chychrun go back to probably last summer. Mm-hmm. And so it's one thing to think like, oh man, could this actually happen? And then to actually like, no, like here's the release, here's the announcement, like Jacob Chychrun is an Ottawa Senator. Like there's, even though it's been talked about beforehand, maybe there isn't still the same shock value as you like, but I think for the fans that are getting, a player they've long had dreams about, even like you go back to the summer, different scenario, free agency versus trade deadline, but like the Claude Giroux rumors had been really ramping up before free agency opened. And then it happened. It was like, oh my God, like Claude Giroux actually signed in Ottawa. Like it's not a dream. Mm-hmm. So that's the sort of feeling I think still exists, even though that the thought of it has been put out there beforehand. But I don't know. I think we're nitpicking here. I think there's been a lot of good trades, a lot of high profile names on the move. It's been fun.
We do have a breaking trade to announce, and I was going to bring up the Buffalo Sabres, Kyle, where you did your first ever live broadcast where I was in the building. And
that's right.
I think that that's an experience I treasure, even though we didn't actually know each other yet. But the Sabres, they've made a bit of an ad here with Jordan Greenway from Minnesota, 6'6", Jordan Greenway, 230 pounds, left shot, left winger. That's a decent little depth piece for the Sabres trying to make a push for a wild card spot here.
Yeah, and then they've gone through a bit of a rut here this week, right? Like, they got blown out by Boston. Tough loss against Columbus on Tuesday. Like they were in the driver's seat for a while there in terms of points versus how many games played versus other teams in the race. But now it's starting to even out a little more. So I think there's familiarity, I believe, from Don Granato and his time with the U.S. National Team Development Program. Like Jordan Greenway was there, played with like the Austin Matthews group back in the day. So there's there's a history between the coach and the player. So certainly that would factor into things there. And I think they're a team that, I believe is like there, like even seemed like for a lot of this year, even it had passed Ottawa in terms of the journey to being back to a playoff team. And I think can still get there this year, amazingly on the back of Craig Anderson, who's been a big part of it as well. But like, it's a really exciting group of forwards and especially their defense. Like Rasmus Dahlin is just like a mean SOB out there and just like plays with like a fun edge.
Got him on both my fantasy teams, by the way.
Yeah, right. And I'm sure you're thrilled with that.
Draft.
Like Owen Power too, like is getting more comfortable by the day, another big body. So I really like their mix there. And so it seemed like, Greenway just the time had come in Minnesota for a fresh start somewhere. And we'll see, with the familiarity, as I say, with the Don Granado, with the Tage Thompson, how quickly it takes for him to kind of feel comfortable and a part of things there. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, not bad. So the full details here, the Minnesota Wild get a 2023 second round pick and a 2024 fifth round pick for Jordan Greenway. No salary retained. So they free up $3 million in the next 2 years to help with conducting business this summer. This is coming from Michael Russo. So yeah, again, I just think that for everything the Sabres have gone through, and I mention all the time that I live half an hour up the road from them because I do. But I got to say that I've been quietly rooting for the Sabres too. And with the emergence of Tage Thompson, love his last name, of course, which is obvious. But, they've had to wait for so long, so I just think that after Jack Eichel left, it finally cleared the air and said, okay, now we're going to form our identity. And it seemed like after Jack left that it just seems like they're getting it together here a little bit.
Right. Almost like similar, not exactly the same, but like when Colorado finally made the move to trade Matt Duchene, it was like they never looked back. They got into the playoffs that year. I know it's not happening as quick for Buffalo, but it felt like a different vibe around them since the Eichel trade happened, right? Like his first game back there in Buffalo, they win, they beat Vegas. And then the next game, they do the outdoor one in Hamilton against Toronto. They beat Toronto that game. It was two big moments. And now down the stretch here, let's see if they've got enough to get in. I remember having a conversation last year with Kyle Bukauskas, who's now the captain. And he was saying, because he'd been there a while and been through a lot of lean years too. And he said, when March would roll around in the past, like that's when we were just getting walked over and run out of the gym every night because teams were ramping up for the playoffs and we just didn't have the juice to hang with them. And he's going, this year's felt different. Like we're going toe to toe with a lot more teams here down the stretch when the games get harder. And now they're even in a position now to grab a spot themselves. And, can they bring themselves to that level to get in? I think between them and Ottawa and the Islanders, like it's a fun race here that's still to be decided.
It's close. And I should mention too, we just mentioned Jack Eichel. So Buffalo uses the second round pick from Vegas from the Eichel deal and a fifth to acquire Greenway. So they can thank Jack Eichel again for acquiring Greenway, I guess. So there you have it. But what do you make about, is this, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this not the first time this season or this year, the first time in his career that we're going to see Jack Eichel in the playoffs?
It would be. Yeah, okay. No, because Vegas missed last year.
Last year, Vegas missed. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so this is the first time we're going to see Jack Eichel in the playoffs, which would be interesting. Also for me, I just think that given Vegas and their situation, and I think we got to talk about Jonathan Quick a little bit, and that whole we got to talk about that trade, guys, because that was interesting. After seeing how upset Kopitar and Drew Doughty were, to then see their buddy flip to Vegas, I felt happier for Jonathan Quick that he was going to Vegas in that instance to have a chance in the playoffs here, Kyle.
Yeah, and Mike Futa, who was assistant GM in LA for their 2 Stanley Cup accomplishments, obviously knows Jonathan Quick incredibly well, and that core that's still around in LA. He was joking on the air yesterday, like he hopes the hockey gods line things up that there is like an LA Vegas first round playoff series to be had, and just that feeling of Jonathan Quick hitting the ice at Crypto.com Arena for Game 1 in a Vegas uniform. It would be incredible theater. That's an interesting one, just because, again, like Rob Blake, a player, knows what those types of trades can do to a room when you've got someone that's so beloved and popular in there, and the ripple effect that can cause. But clearly he felt that, they needed some help in goal, and Jonathan Quick wasn't the answer anymore. Because otherwise you're not doing that move if you still believed in the guy, because they're in a position right now to be in the postseason. As we've talked about, the West is certainly more open than the East is, it feels. I think there's going to be some stories to be told just about how that all unfolded. Who knew on the LA side, who didn't, because clearly it caught a few players like right across the front of the face, in the worst way possible, to see a close friend and such a longtime teammate go at this stage of his career. So it's good on Columbus for then flipping him to somewhere we can be in the playoffs again, and even a little closer to his home in LA, being in Vegas as opposed to Columbus, Ohio. We'll see how long it takes him to kind of get over, okay, I'm not an LA King anymore. I'm a Vegas Golden Knight, and what kind of help he can provide a team that's actually been held up pretty well between Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson when healthy. I'd be curious to see kind of what role he ends up playing down the stretch here for the Golden Knights.
Mm-hmm. I mean, similar situation here, obviously less drastic, but we saw Tyler Bertuzzi get traded to Boston, and then Dylan Larkin signs this big old contract, having a press conference, and then as soon as he gets asked about it, breaks down. I mean, he's crying because he lost a friend, and that's kind of the aspect that we almost always forget about the trade deadline. Is like these are players, these are people, and they have their family there, they have their friends there, and then all of a sudden, get out of here, So like to see Dylan Larkin break down like that, actually, like it hurt. I didn't think it was going to be that bad, but man, that was rough to watch. Oh.
Yeah, I think it's just a byproduct of what the professional ranks can be like. Clearly they're very close, and Larkin touched on just one of his best friends in life, and you think about just how quickly it's all changed for Detroit, right? Like, go into this 2-game set here in Ottawa at the start of this week. Going into the game Monday, Detroit was 4 points up on Ottawa, and they were right there. So I think if they were 4 points up on Ottawa, then they were 2 points out of a playoff spot. And so right there into the mix, they put up 45 shots on Tampa the game previous, still lost. Like, they got goalied by Vasilevsky, but were totally deserving to win and had been on a roll. They won 7-9 and then coming in. And then they get absolutely bullied for 6 periods. And then, the next day, Hronik's gone, and then Bertuzzi's gone. And it's like they're in sell mode, and any hope of them making a push to get in has quickly gone to the wayside. So it's remarkable how quick things have fallen, and especially I think it's just hard too for a guy like Dylan Larkin, who I've had conversations with in the past about another guy. I mean, got into the playoffs briefly there was his rookie year in 2016, but hasn't had a sniff of it since. He's been the leader through a lot of really difficult times there. Clearly a Michigan guy. He loves everything about being a Red Wing and representing that organization. And part of the reason why he signed the 8-year ticket that he did. And so now to see what was a season that had been filled with so much hope and a legitimate chance to finally get in, all of a sudden go up and smoke. And on top of that, you've got one of your best friends in Tyler Bertuzzi going elsewhere. I can't even begin to imagine what that must feel like for him.
Yeah, brutal.
We have some, there's been another deal. Do you want to go ahead, Shayner?
I don't know which deal you're talking about, but there's a lot of speculation here coming.
Well, there's interest. We were talking about Detroit, and Nick mentioned this, and it does sound like Seattle and Detroit are pushing for JVR. That's the latest on the rumor mill. But yeah, Minnesota gets Oscar Sundqvist. You got something, Kyle? Feel free to break a trade live.
No. Sorry. I'm just.
I got one.
We're all catching up. So
The Pittsburgh Penguins send Brock McGinn to the Ducks, and Anaheim takes part of Kolikov's salary. Okay, so McGinn for Kolikov, it seems. Interesting.
Yes, saw that one. McGinn had
Oscarson.
fallen out of favor there and put on waivers. And a little help on defense. Yeah, Pittsburgh's in a weird spot for me. They should get in,
Let's
but
hear about
it's
Pittsburgh.
been very underwhelming.
They could use a guy like Mike Matheson. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Man,
Can you picture him playing in Pittsburgh?
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
boy. Twist the knife.
But
I mean, Petrie's been
give us
fine.
Petrie back. We'll just whatever.
Right. He scored. Did he score two goals last night? Yeah.
In like a minute.
Yeah.
Did he really?
In less than a minute. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Dad's
crazy.
trip.
Oh my gosh. I have like 3 Petrie things I took off my back. I'm gonna go pick them up. But that's good for Jeff though. Good for him. But yeah, there was rumors about Matheson. I never thought there was any substance to it, but I think the price would be quite high. Like you talk about trying to fetch something decent for Joel Edmondson. Apparently Winnipeg now may be in the mix for him. But for Mike Matheson, they told him he was going to be coming in to be their top guy. So that's hard to let go of unless you're going to pay a hefty price. And it sounds like, Kyle, like you mentioned earlier, your point about the Habs, Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton sticking to their plan. So in this case, I got to say, like, I'm okay with we've already been pretty patient up to this point. And I think that as anticlimactic as this trade deadline might be for us, it seems like the rebuild is going to go the way they want it to and do it the right way this time. So.
Yeah, I would say, like, you need players to play for you, and I think Matheson, a guy who's done a good job there again when healthy. He's been bit by the injury bug again this year too, but he's been an effective guy that I think you can hang on to for a little while if you wanted. Another local guy who I think loves everything about being a Canadian and seems pretty calm, cool, collected. Like not a lot bothers him.
Yeah.
So I think so long as that's part of your vision of having him in the mix there and can help along the Caden Goulies of the world, I think he's staying put. I think if you're Kent Hughes.
I think apparently I'm a Mike Matheson lookalike too, and we're also we're also born in the same town, which is like right in Point Claire, which is where I was born, just outside Montreal. So the coincidence there, man. Oh my gosh, that's been fun to deal with. I've also been called Skinny Kessel.
Skinny Kessel.
I've had a few, man. Like I've had a few come my way, dude. Like, oh my gosh. So that's enough about me. But yeah, just I've had a few more too, like Justin Morneau from the Minnesota Twins. Like I kind of scared me on that one. He's retired now. But anyway, enough about me, guys. Let's talk more hockey. But Kyle, appreciate you jumping on for this long with us. You always are so generous with your time, and that's why I appreciate you, man. And as you get ready to amp up for the playoffs, dude, this is such a busy time of year for you. So, like, do you just kind of get in the mindset? Is trade deadline the signal of like, okay, playoff season's about here, and you're just ready to go, firing all cylinders, covering every game possible, or what?
Yeah, pretty much. And actually March isn't like overly busy in terms of like time on the road, which is nice because if you do end up getting a long playoff run, you take the bit of the downtime before you get there, because once it starts, it typically doesn't stop. But yeah, this time it's like you get over the hump. Okay, now you're about roughly 20 games or less to go until the regular season's done. And now it's just following the races, who's playing well, and then wait to see what the playoffs give you. Yeah, it feels like the games matter a little more. The matchups matter a little more now as everyone's jockeying for position. This is, you get through the dog days, and the payoff is just a lot of juice here coming down the stretch before the real fun begins. First round of the postseason.
Well, how do you describe the difference, right? Because like, where's the hype been for you and everything? You've covered the Stanley Cup final. You've covered every conceivable playoff round, but where has been, I guess, in all your time covering the NHL with Sportsnet, are there certain, like, is it the first round, game one, round one, where you just see the difference in the excitement and just the buzz in any building that you can think of? Like, what's you get what I'm kind of alluding to here?
Yeah. Like beginning of the opening round, I think that's the biggest jump in terms of just atmosphere and buzz and electricity. from the regular season to now the playoffs. It's when, the players are most fresh. I think it's so with that, it's typically the series, the round that has the highest tempo of games. The guys are moving quicker in the opening rounds versus later on, where the fatigue, whatever injuries you're dealing with, start to set in more and more and more. So it's exhilarating. And again, going back to the earlier point where it's like double headers every night, so you're bouncing around from game to game, and everything is just like gone from 0 to 100 so quick. And in some cases, you see teams that are trying to win the series in the first 10 minutes of the opening game. It's just it creates just a really, really cool atmosphere, and you can tell the fans are jacked up for it because they've been waiting for it all year. That's the biggest jump. Certainly when you get to the Stanley Cup final, there's a different feel. Like there's just a little more pomp and circumstance. Like there's the whole media day dedicated before game one. Even for me, like I find like when players hit the ice for warmups before game one of the Cup final, and you see like the Stanley Cup final patch on the jerseys, it's like, oh baby, like here we go. This is different now. So there's that element, but in terms of just feeling in the building, right at the opening puck drop of game one of round one, that's the biggest jump for me. Okay,
I like that, because that's what I was sort of picturing was and that's, I think, at the Bell Center, because it's been a while since we've had a full building in the playoffs in the Bell Center. I'm thinking 2017 when Radulov was with the Canadians, and that's when you were covering the team for the whole year. So I remember that. You've shared some good stories about that. But before we let you go, though, okay, so we're Elliot Friedman, your pal. He's tweeting it out. He's going to be the first. We're hearing JVR to Detroit.
Wow. All
so
right.
This Bertuzzi move sort of makes more sense now. Which what do you make, guys? I'm gonna have to get a banner ready here, but instant reaction. We if it's coming from Elliot, it's true. So
yeah,
and he's the first to break it, like he always is. So what do you guys think?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Kyle. You're a guest.
Yeah, no, it don't matter to me. No, I think, God, I don't know what to think of that. So, because it seemed like, Detroit was in sell mode. And so, to bring in a guy like James Van Riemsdyk, usually you'd think would kind of be seen as a complimentary piece. Pending UFA. We'll see what, in terms of salary retention, what all went on there. Yeah. But, maybe again, like they lost to Seattle yesterday in overtime. I don't know. Did Dylan Larkin go into Steve Yzerman's office and go, look, like, I don't think we should be completely pulling the chute on this year. Like, can you get us a little bit of help to try to make one last push at things? And the JVR acquisition is it. I don't know. But as I say, I think he's still got, a lot of effectiveness in terms of how he plays around the net. Even, he's a bit later on in his career now. I think he's a guy that, takes really good care of himself away from the rink. He's meticulous in his preparation. So I think he's a good influence to have in any dressing room. So we'll see. This will be an interesting one. I think he'll look good in a Red Wings jersey, and just how the big text of the last name will wrap around his number on the back that Detroit has. I think it'll be, let's see where this goes.
Do we know what the return is yet, or not?
I've seen.
We're still
probably
waiting.
just
you got
pick or
anything
two
on your side, Kyle? I don't see anything yet.
No.
No, me neither.
But JVR, I don't know if you guys remember, but he is the second overall pick of the 2007 draft. I didn't realize he went second overall. Like I just, maybe it's just too long ago for me to remember that. But that was a selection by the Philadelphia Flyers, second overall. James Van Riemsdyk in 2007. Career numbers, just while we have him, 920 games played, 585 points, 297 goals, 288 assists. But he's also got playoff experience, guys? So we got 71 games played for JVR, 20 goals, 11 assists, 31 points in those 71 games. So this is another chance for a guy 33 years of age, turning 34 in May, to really bolster the Red Wings down the stretch here, maybe too. But I'm just going to see what the term left on JVR's contract is. It's a cap hit of $7 million.
He's a UFA.
He is the UFA. He's at
That's
the top
why
of the list.
I'm a little surprised that it's Detroit. Just again, what they've done the 2 days previous to today. But we'll see when Yzerman holds his press conference what his rationale is.
Yeah, that's right. So are you going to be covering Dorian's then, presumably? Or
Yes. At last check, he's speaking at 3:45 Eastern. We'll see if that gets moved up at all, just because it's been, to this point, a real quiet day on Ottawa's front. But so he'll be, as it stands right now, he'll be chatting in about an hour here.
Okay,
Sweet.
good enough.
Yeah.
The East is stacked. Yeah, this is one of my good buddies, Matt. He's a fellow hockey Habs fan, YouTube creator. He's hilarious. He's from Newfoundland. He's so funny. So I want to give Matt a shout out here because he was going to come on with us, but we just didn't get a chance to get him on. But so we at least we have this fresh deal to talk about. I was really hoping we would have a fresh Habs breaking trade to talk about with Kyle, but you know what? This is good too. In terms of where Detroit's at, though, I gotta be honest, guys. Like, where are they at in the standings right now? Because off the top of my head, I don't know.
Middle of the pack.
Where would they be now with getting? Are they 5 out now, or it could even be
I'm gonna
more.
pull up the wild card. Yeah, so let me pull it up here, guys. Just
They're
so
5 out.
Yeah, they're 5 points out. So this is like a big race between Detroit, Washington, Florida, Ottawa, Buffalo, Islanders, and the Penguins are the 2 wild card placeholders right now. But yeah, 5 points out. You got to think that, like you said, Dylan Larkin must have went into Steve Yzerman's office or something, because this is a decent pickup, eh? Could be a rental,
it's just it's not typically a move you make if you're bowing out of the race and you're trading guys like Tyler Bertuzzi and Philip Hronek.
Right. Apparently the deal isn't quite done yet. That's the Red Wings are apparently
pending physical, right?
Yeah, well, it says that the Red Wings are in the process of moving another player, so that's yet to be announced.
Okay.
But
sweet,
interesting stuff though, like, because again, he is a pending UFA, and he was at the top of the trade bait list that I kind of mentioned to you guys earlier. But good for the Wings. I mean, like, it does. I like that the Sabres, the Red Wings, have added today, and they're trying to make their push for a wild card spot. So I want to see some new teams into the mix, right, guys?
But let's be realistic here. Who is beating Boston or New York?
Oh, probably none, no teams in the mix. No. But I mean, like, from Detroit's, if we're looking at Detroit's perspective and Ottawa's, like, I think just getting there, I think is worth it. Even if there's the chance that you go down in 4, like the Darryl Sutter line, a waste of 8 days. Yeah. I think for these franchises, with where they're at and how long it's been since they've even been part of a race like this, it wouldn't be a waste of 8 days. I think it's just good to get a taste again, because it's been too long.
Fair enough. And I mean, the playoffs, who expected the Habs to make the finals in 2021, right? Nobody. They barely got in, ran through Toronto, Winnipeg, and Vegas, who were favorites by a mile. So anything can happen in the playoffs. Like, so that's the beauty of it. But realistically, like, Boston is a wagon, and so is New York. Like, if New York can stay healthy and Shesterkin is on his game, I mean, it's a bloodbath in the East. Like, whoever comes out of the East is going to be mangled when it gets to the Stanley Cup Finals, and whoever comes out of the West is going to be fresh and dandy. Like, okay, we're ready to go. It's going to be interesting. I am pumped for the playoffs.
Yeah, it's the best time of year. Jeff Merrick says the Eastern Octagon. It really is. Like, and it's like, because usually, right, like there's 1 or 2 teams maybe in the conference that are like going big and spending whatever is necessary to get the players they want. Like, between the Rangers, the Devils, the Leafs, the Bruins, the Lightning, like, how many first round picks have like flied across everywhere over the last 2 weeks? It's been incredible. Everyone's loading up, and only one team can come out of this conference. So there's going to be a lot of disappointed faces here along the way. But hey, you play this game to win, right? Herm Edwards, right? Hello, you play to win the game. So I would rather teams take this approach every year than just playing it safe, right? Like, you think you got a good team, all right, push your chips into the middle, and let's see who's the last one standing.
Apparently, the deal for JVR, we have competition on the trade line between guys like with Frank Saravalli. Darren Dreger, and then Elliott. Apparently, because the Red Wings are still trying to move a player out, this JVR deal hasn't happened, but it sounds like that's where it's going to get to. So it's not official yet, JVR to the Detroit Red Wings. However, it's in the works, and it's 2:45, so they better get to it, right? So,
yes.
Kyle, do you know, is there, like, past 3:00, we still see deals trickling in, right? So how does that work in terms of timeline for GMs to submit them? Do you know?
I think my understanding, as long as, because there's a queue that forms on the phone line, right, to complete the trade call with the league, right, just to make sure everything checks out. So as long as you're in that queue before 3:00, they may not get to you to be able to actually process the transaction until 3:30 or whenever it is. But as long as you're there before the 3:00 hour hits, then the trade can go through.
Okay. One thing that's been a little surprising to me is that there's basically nothing with the goalies this year. Like, aside from Korpisalo, quick, that little thing, we haven't seen any goalies move, which I thought I would see more goalies. Like, there's teams that are deeply lacking a backup, or some even lacking a number one starter. So I thought there'd be more goalies moved, but I guess prices were too high. I don't know.
I think it just dictates the market too. Yeah, I think it speaks to just the goalie market, not what it's been in years past. And I feel like that position, it's harder to bring a guy in at the deadline than a forward or a defenseman. Like, it's not often we see like Fleury was a big one last year, of course, but it just doesn't feel like it's often that like a prominent number one goalie is on the move at trade deadline. Like, I remember Ryan Miller years ago went to St. Louis. Didn't feel like that worked out. You just don't see it too often.
Mm-hmm. But say like guys like a Jake Allen, who, Samuel Montembeault was kind of creeping up, taking that number one spot, which makes him an outlier. Maybe a team like the Rangers, we saw Halak yesterday, didn't look too convincing. I mean, if they want to make a push, they might go out and get a guy like Jake Allen. Like, I don't know. I expected more from like a backup standpoint, but I get that if the price is too high, I don't expect too much.
Right, and goalies are just hard to find. Like, so Jake Allen, he just signed an extension with Montreal, and I agree. Yeah, Montembeault's had a great year and has been a great story with his progression. But if I'm Kent Hughes, I still want to hang on to Jake Allen until you're in a much different place as an organization. I mean, he's everything that you want in terms of his approach, and you listen to how he's embraced the role that he's in now, and knowing that he's probably not going to be around when this team's ready to win. But the fact that he wants to be part of this process is that's the kind of guy I want to have on my side. Definitely. Yeah. If anyone listened that's any curious about the position of goaltending, listen to his interview with the 32 Thoughts guys, Jeff and Elliott. I don't know if you guys listened to it. Anyway, it's fascinating. I've had a couple conversations with Alan just about the position this year too. Anyway, it's cool. Like, I wasn't a goalie growing up or anything, but it's fun to kind of geek out and just kind of hear him really break down the minutia of goaltending and positioning, the equipment, all of it. It's really fascinating.
I started watching it and then I had to go back to work. I was like, I was really enjoying it.
Save it for later. Yeah.
But I like what Jake said about how early in his career he wouldn't have been able to handle being the starter for the Montreal Canadiens. That was really interesting. Right. So we should. I know this is a good story, but we should mention here things are changing fast on JVR apparently, and I know that Kyle's a Sportsnet guy, and we have the competitors, but.
Elliott just tweeted too. Yeah, something happened with JVR in Detroit. Pulled back from the deal.
Ooh. Okay.
Whoa.
Breaking. JVR is not going to Detroit. Have you guys seen that before?
What the hell?
I've never seen that before. A deal pulled back.
It's like
Drew, you jinxed it. Drew. You said it's Elliott, and it's confirmed if he's always right.
Yeah, you're like, there's no chance this could be wrong.
They will never hire me at Sportsnet. I'm glad I tried already. Wow.
Door's closed.
Door is closed. Yep. You know what?
Yep.
TSN, like, please.
Good luck. Good luck with Bell. Yep.
I'm with Kojiko as far as like cable services and stuff go, but my gosh, dude. I hope they're not watching. This is not going in the demo reel. I'll tell you that right now.
No, it's all good. I mean, clearly something, because a number of people were on it, right? Stuff happens.
That's pretty wild. R.I.P. This is R.I.P. JVR to Detroit, 237 to 246.
Will he still get a tribute video?
Are we getting? Yeah, imagine like if Jonathan Quick. That actually happened though, so we can. That was fun. This is why being live is fun, because things can change on a dime. Wow. Dude, Kyle, last year we had I mentioned this to Shayne when we just before we brought you on, but 5 minutes after you jumped off our stream last year, Arturi Lehkonen got dealt. So we're like, we gotta have something. Mm-hmm. We gotta have something of substance. And I think JVR not getting dealt will be the highlight of
this. That's our substance.
That's so weird.
Still kind of feels like empty calories, but we'll take it.
I eat a lot of empty calories. Wow. Oh boy, if we're gonna get into health, Kyle, you hit the gym, right? Because like, dude, that's the one thing I can't get under. I can't get my discipline to. I got to get to the gym. It's been like on my brain all year, and it's March.
Yeah, it's hard. Like you got to find something that interests you, because I find I can get bored really quickly with that stuff, and then you just lose the drive to want to go do it. But it's hard on the road at times, being away from home, and you just get bogged down by, I feel I should just do work. And you push the other stuff to the side. But I'm lucky to find, doing things that I enjoy doing. And so that helps getting my butt off the couch and going to do something. But yeah, it's not easy.
Dude, can I say this while we're live too? Congrats again on the engagement.
Thanks. Thanks, Drew. Appreciate it, buddy.
Want to give you that because yes. Whenever the wedding happens, and I don't know if you guys have a date or not yet, but I'm going to be sending you a wedding gift. So you make sure.
Don't worry about that. No, seriously.
No. You're too nice. I still owe you a caramel macchiato at Starbucks, and I'm telling you right now. we met. What was it in 2019 in the Rogers Cup in Toronto? Kyle and I did. So and what did I have you there for 2 hours or something? Like your time, you're generous with it, man. Let me tell you. But I just
I'm happy to chat with you guys. This was fun.
Yeah. So anyway, and also you got a puppy too, right?
Yes. Yeah. We got a dog. So it's been a busy 12 months, gentlemen.
Stanley Cup, engagement, dog. I don't know. You guys got another house coming. I don't know. What kind of dog did you get, and what's the name?
It's a golden doodle. Name's Barry. And Barry. He just hit actually 9 months today. So it's he's been a great pal. I never had a dog growing up, a family dog. Like Dana, my fiance, she never did either. So it was like a totally new foray for us. But it's been a lot of fun. Obviously, those first few months are a lot of work, as those that have puppies know, and we were kind of wondering, okay, how are we going to handle it all? But it's been great, and we've been really lucky. Like there's just so many stages that aren't typically the most fun. I think when having a puppy, a young dog, like didn't happen with us. Like he just kind of bypassed it. So we've been there were moments where we're looking at each other going like, what are we missing here? Like, isn't he supposed to be like a bit of a jerk, like right around this stage? But it just wasn't. And they're such a fun breed too. Like they love affection. And anyway, so it's just, he's a good buddy.
It's so true, man. Cause I didn't have a dog growing up either. So Sherman, my pug upstairs, is my first one too. And similar experience to you, man. Like didn't grow up with one. This is my first time having one, but it's worth it, right? They're so pure. And anyway, awesome, man. Well, I want to wish you the best for the playoffs and the remainder of the regular season as well. And actually, before we go, just one more thing, if you don't mind. Just in terms of all the guys you've interviewed all the stars of the NHL that you can think of. As long as they score, you get to interview them after the game or intermission or whatever it is. But what's been an interview that you've enjoyed the most, even if it was after the cameras went off? Like what's a star or maybe non-star player that there's something that you found out about them that you didn't know or you were surprised about, how their interaction with you went?
I don't know. It's hard to pick just one, honestly, just only because again, like we're just fortunate that in a lot of cases, hockey players are good people to deal with and interact with. And they say, usually the stuff when the cameras are gone and are usually the more interesting. But I had a conversation with, I brought up Luke Schenn earlier, having a chat with him when Vancouver was in Toronto earlier this year, just after practice in the dressing room. And, he started kind of getting into the nitty gritty about how he's been able to kind of revive his career. Like, it was a few years ago, he was playing in the minors in Anaheim system. Like, it seemed like he was on his way out, and now he's got a couple of cups with Tampa and was a coveted defenseman here at the trade deadline this year that Toronto, brought back into the fold, that team he was originally drafted by. So like, those conversations are really neat. As I think I've brought this up before, but I mean, like, I always enjoyed, not that it happened a ton, but like, the 2017 playoffs, I did 2 rounds of the New York Rangers, and, interviewing Henrik Lundqvist at the end of the game, who just like let it all out there in terms of his emotion and what he was feeling at that time. Just really appreciated. I think it's the most enjoyable ones are certainly, having the great fortune and privilege to interview players, as soon as the Stanley Cup's handed out on the ice, and just to see that emotion of like everything that they work for, all the time they put in, how their families there for it, and like the dream that has been there for a lot of them since they were a young kid finally come true, and to see that on their faces and what they're saying to you, that makes all the long travel, the long season worth it, just for someone in my position, where that's kind of your job, is to interview players and to get the most out of them. To be able to see that up close is really rewarding, and gets you excited for this time of year for sure.
Good stuff, man. Well, like I said, really appreciate you coming on, and we'll stay in touch, of course, as we do. But man, I do appreciate it. I just can't say that enough about you, man. You've been a constant in my life in the last few years. And we appreciate the work that you do. Every time you pop up on TV, it always brings me a smile to see you get to do what you're doing, and just a job that's so unique and so special. And I hope you have a great rest of the season, playoffs, and we'll chat again soon, as always, my friend.
Beautiful. Thanks, boys. Thank you for the support, and great to be on with you.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, guys. Talk to you.
Talk to you soon, Kyle. Well, there he is, man. Like, what a legend. Like,
beauty.
Like,
beauty. What did what's his face there, the basketball guy called him?
The Tom Brady of the
exactly.
NHL.
Or, Tom Brady of the NHL, right
Charles
there.
Barkley. Charles Barkley, yeah.
That's it. Chuck called him the Tom Brady of the NHL. Couldn't be truther.
I'm pretty sure I have that picture of
that's insane.
Oh yeah, I do. I'm gonna pull it up right now. So you just heard from him. This picture. Kyle was on last year on my channel, and I showed him this picture of him and Charles Barkley. We just laughed. But your reaction was great too, so I'll take it. But
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, Kyle's a great guy. I saw him actually first game of the season this year against Toronto. I had great tickets,
and you saw him. Yeah,
I had great tickets, and he walked right by me. I said, "Let's go, Kyle!" And he gave him a high five. Anyways,
you gave him a high five? Like, just
yeah. He was pumped up too. I mean, it was a great game, great atmosphere. Oh, and Nick is still going, and Nick is breaking trades.
Troy Stecher to Calgary. I thought it was Carolina. No, I was wrong. Okay, so Troy Stecher to Calgary from Arizona. My bad. Still breaking trades.
Listen, we have to talk about Arizona real quick. I get we'll talk about them again later when we do the Habs Tonight show, but Arizona grinds my gears.
What really grinds my gears?
What they're doing as an organization. Again, it is it is Calgary. Thank you, Nick.
This is what happens when we both have access to clicking stuff.
But that's like Elliot Freeman calling Montreal Mon.
Yeah.
Like, it's Monday. Like, okay, whatever. But Arizona Coyotes, man, I have so much to say about them, so I'll hold my tongue a little bit. But it's just sad to see that, because, like, you look at the other major sports, right? You don't have an embarrassment of a team in the MLB. You don't have that in the NFL. You don't have that in the NBA. So to think that they are going in the right direction is asinine. It is completely delusional. Gary Bettman is doing the opposite of what he's thinking, right? Which is, we're growing the league. Yeah, good point, right? You want teams in small markets to grow the league, right? Teams like in Columbus, who do fill out their arena. Teams like in Anaheim, San Jose. Good job. hello, there's not even 5,000 people in your arena in Arizona.
It's bonkers. I know.
What? And then they're doing all this cap gymnastics thingy. Like, and Bettman said it would be frowned upon if teams, tried to swing the cap upside down and do all kinds of shit with it. And here they are, his darling baby, doing all that stuff, and he's just, I don't care.
I don't know, man. It's so bizarre what they're doing, and like, I don't know. Gary Bettman's Gary Bettman. Carolina is done for the day. No trades. What I like hearing is that we don't know if Montreal's done or not. So, because there really has not been much. 40% of their cap is retained. What was it?
Is it
40%? Oh, LTR. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like they could. I mean, they acquired Shea Weber. They acquired Jacob Voracek. Anyways,
another breaking.
I mean,
trade.
I hope it works out, right? If Arizona actually had a great arena, solid fan base, team that heading in the right direction, I'd be the happiest guy, because we are growing in a small market. That's what the NHL needs. Did you see what happened on ESPN? I think it was yesterday, right? With
Stephen A. Smith.
Exactly. Oh,
it wasn't just
the
him,
Rangers
though.
don't count.
It was actually the lady report. I don't know her name, so
right.
But she said that I thought it was her that said that doesn't count.
That's a terrible look. And ESPN is a new partner with the NHL, right? Gary Bettman brought them back.
Such a stupid look, for them. That was dumb.
That is awful. So, anyways.
Apparently, Frank Zaravelli says, by the way, that James Van Riemsdyk was not traded prior to the NHL trade deadline.
I've never seen anything like that.
You did not hear it here first.
That is insane. A trade was wow. So
that's the story of the day. That's literally
that hurts Elliott's reputation, I guess. He is not.
I don't think so.
Correct.
If he's allowed one wrong. He's allowed one.
But he was probably told that it was done. So like his source is really to blame here. But
it was in the works.
Weird.
He said, but all he said is that he was hearing that he was going to Detroit. He didn't say he's going to Detroit. He said he's hearing he's going to Detroit. So he was, he wasn't saying it was a done deal, but I was. So
we all thought it was, because usually when he says that, it is a done deal. Like, that guy is heading there. But
yeah, Elliot just tweeted that JVR was not dealt. Whatever was possible did not get consummated with Detroit.
Wow.
So that marriage did not happen.
But that's a bad move on Philadelphia's part, though. If they weren't able to move him for a team that is aspiring to get Bedard, like, they want to lose. They're terrible. To not get anything in return for him is
to find out what really went down. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, because what the friggin' heck, man? That's wild. Well, I think we should jump off, because we're going to be jumping back on in about 40 minutes onto Habs tonight. So for those of you that are watching right now, we do see a bunch of you still here. Thank you for watching, by the way. I haven't even had a chance to say that to you guys. We've been so busy with Kyle being here, being the stud that he is, donating all that time to us. Make sure to tune into Habs tonight in about 40 minutes for a recap show for hopefully at least one deal will have been submitted. But we kind of expected this. So Denis Gurianov is probably maybe the biggest deal that the Habs will have made. But I still keep seeing trades come in, and I say that I'm going to eat my words pretty soon. But be sure to tune in to Habs tonight in about 40 minutes. Producer James is not coming. Shayne, myself, and Anik Lemaire will be going on Habs tonight in about 40 minutes to do a trade deadline recap and also make an announcement about the future of Habs tonight. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. And it was a blast to have Kyle on here and do a trade deadline show on my channel for the first time ever. So thank you, Shayne, for coming on as well, my friend.
Always a pleasure.
Always. Okay, well, we'll see you guys very soon on Habs tonight. And just so you guys know, too, if the Peterborough Pete's will let me, tonight, I'm going to go interview Owen Beck. So that's the plan. And I'll leave it at that. So we'll see how it goes. I'll see you guys in a little bit on Habs tonight. Cheers, guys.